Hi, welcome. In this video, I want to take a couple minutes to respond by way of an individual that's been just like Murdoch, been all over my comments on my videos, attempting to challenge, okay, this my approach, attempting to elevate balanced dog training up as having the answers. And again, obviously, this individual hasn't actually took the time to watch many of my videos. By the way, again, I talk about the source of the problem. I break it down. I have a 14-part series, part of one of my courses. I go through all information based. I go through all of it through counter conditioning. I talk about the four quadrants. I talk about at the social level, influence and control, why they need to be reconciled by way of how a dog's decision making process is influenced and governed at that level, perceptions of dogs, how they align. And then you look at my service dog training, okay, I show the whole, if you actually take the time to watch, I show the whole 4 months. Okay, starting off with a interaction based approach, how that reconciles the aligns the perceptions of dogs, changes the focus onto the person the right way, and then okay, you can start to motivate response. So understand there's a time and a place, there's a sequence, but when you consider that over 90% of the dogs that I'm helping, owners with are experiencing a relationship problem, it's going to align the way that I show. It's going to be interaction based. It needs to reconcile those core ingredients and need to engage the way I show it to bring it to a point of a dog that, again, you can have fun with. Okay. So the connecting, the petting part of it, all of that has a place in the relationship by way of you being perceived the right way. So understand that how we connect that way, our role is absolutely critical. Especially again, once the relationship's going sideways, it means that how you're connecting at that level, your emotions, all those things, how those things tie in. So you have to bring it just like you're understanding your role. You got to transition your role into the proper way of connecting. You got to bring those core ingredients in a way that is going to provide clarity to the dog, and then everything lines up. But here's the thing: again, these trainers here, that this is the thing, their engagement is totally different. Okay, people have to understand that they're not engaged, not even approaching training by seeing it as a intervention based the fact on it's a relationship problem. You don't even hear them talk certain words, which is really crazy to me. But when you understand the problems, then you can start to make sense of it. To say, well, when they start using words like learning and all this stuff, well, they're engaging by way of using motivating agents like treats, toys, to generate a response, and that's their whole focus in a very superficial way. Even they don't even have the ability to even establish whether the perceptions are aligning through their approach, because that's not their focus, because they're not even engaging a relationship problem properly. So I talk about interaction based, that's not their approach. Okay, you have to understand that. That's why you see all these trainers out there like Murdoch and all these people railing and upset. Consider what's their objection points. At the point I'm taking it to that level, at the point of the interactions themselves, reconciling those core ingredients. So the reactions that those generate, they start using words like choking dogs, and they use all the same rhetoric that you see through the controversies they talk. Look at the whole Jeff Gelman situation. Okay, I mean, consider the fact you didn't have just force free trainers piling onto that situation. You had balanced dog trainers piling on. In fact, here's the crazy thing, is that one of the videos that was put up by a balanced dog trainer was used by the force free movement to try to cancel Gelman. But watch the video. I talk about that. The dog, it wasn't abused. The dog was startled because the clarity wasn't there by way of, using the bonker. Okay, talk about that. Okay, so, the balanced dog training community is at the mercy of these challenges and through the force free movement for a reason, because they're in agreement with approaching training as a learning based exercise, engaging that way. And so the core values they talk about, they're not reconciled through how they're applying that idea, through how they're engaging, through how they're motivating dogs that way to respond. So understand this is inherent to the dog training community. And so, I get into the specifics of it These trainers get all upset and angry, right? Chicks start flying. They want to attack the person because they can't respond to the information. But the information is clear. I put it out there that what training is. It's a intervention. Okay, so again, I talk about what's the criteria these trainers are using to establish that the perceptions of dogs are changing the right way. What is it? Well, considering that they don't even uh, understand or align with, what a process, define a process properly to begin with, then the criteria, in terms of how they're bringing in, isn't going to line up, isn't going to be reconciled. Okay, period. So you're at the mercy, okay, of this picture that most times it's counterfeit. And so you could have some change happen, but not because these traders understand what's going on at that level to be intentional about lining it up. If they were, they wouldn't be engaging the way they are in the first place. So understand that you get all these problems inherent to the dog training world. So talk about that. Go watch. I just put out a video, the crash course video. It just dials you into what I'm considering. Okay, when I see an off leash dog, like right here. So here you got this, thank me later sport guy going in, into my comments, leaving all these crazy comments all over the place. No critical thinking, never asked the question, just wants to try to gin up balanced dog training. Good luck with that. Okay. I mean, going to crash out because you can't. Okay. So here, he put out a couple of videos. So here's the video called Breakfast with Benny, my great dog. I mean, okay. So, but here he's doing this whole off leash response thing. But I'm going to line up another video here in a second by way of a character in the dog training community that people have probably seen in the past. Okay, so and this guy's a lot more flashier um, with his challenge. But anyway, let's play some of this. I want to talk through this. So here you have breakfast for Benny, um, off leash response.
The reason I'm having him sit here is because I'll be blocked from his view when I walk away.
Same thing. So just the whole thing with that's what I talk about. What was the process to establish what you're seeing? The bottom line was the relationship established the right way. See, this is the thing that the trainers they can't get into. You watch my videos, you watch my board and training videos, especially. Ask yourself the question: what do you see? What do you see that's different? Do you see this? Do you see this? Absolutely not. You see me in close proximity with the dog with a leash. Okay, reconciling those core ingredients, like reconciling them 30 seconds in. Okay, understand that these trainers, they don't, that's why they go crazy to watch my videos because they're approaching this totally different, not in a good way. Okay, the whole thing is this. Why do you think they keep talking about off leash and loosely off leash? Where's your off leash? I'm like, what are you even talking about? That's not my focus. Yes, you're going to get there the right way. Okay, I mean, but if you think about that, they don't even. That's a totally missing. Okay, the foundation. Okay, how to actually get there properly to reconcile those core ingredients to a interaction based process. Because a lot of these they don't believe in leashes that way. So of course they're gonna it's like they're oblivious, totally. They can't even consider. There's no critical thinking, anyways, but they cannot get their head around any of it. And so, to them, when they see my videos, it's like they're blind. They're totally just blind to it all. But my thing is, well, what are you going to see in my videos? You're going to see the thing that matters the most, the most. Okay, you're going to see over 90%. You're going to see me in. If you look at the 14-day board frame process, you're up to day 12. You're going to see very much about me interacting in a very specific way, intentional way with dogs, using the leash, using the interactions, okay, as the conversation. I talk through, and here's the incredible thing: if you actually took the time, these trainers took the time to watch my videos, you hear me talking through the whole process. I'm explaining, I'm breaking it down, I'm saying the same thing, I'm moving the same. You'll hear the same thing. I'm talking about why I'm doing what I'm doing. But because they don't care about any of that and they just go in with a certain state of mindset, like they're upset, right? That's what it's really about because they've already made understand something. They've already made their choices. Like this Thank Me Later sport, the sport guy, he's already hemmed himself in by way of identifying as a balanced dog trainer. So he can't get his head around anything I'm saying. He can't respond to what I'm saying. And so what's the point? So this is what you're going to get. You're going to get this type of thing with, okay, an off leash dog even walking away. I'm like, well, how can we trust the picture that the perceptions of this dog have aligned the right way when you're doing this type of thing? Like that matters. I mean, that's the most important thing is the foundation. So what's the foundation? That's missing. Just like the whole Murdaugh thing, missing, right? Just missing. Like that's something they can't even have a conversation about because that's not how people have to understand. That's the most important thing, but that's missing from their whole method. No wonder when you watch the Murdaugh video with the golden retriever, the dog biting into the owner over and over and over again, trying to bypass him, clapping his hands because it doesn't line up. So here we have this guy just starting to walk away, and it's kind of like, well, just at a response level, if I get a certain response from a distance, that automatically means I'm the king of the world. Okay, you'll see another video here in a minute. I mean, well, based on what exactly? Like how are these dogs' perceptions? How are they aligned to the relationship? How can we assess that? I'll tell you how we assess it with the same test that blew Murdaugh out of the water. There's the assessment. Okay. I mean, there it is. So let's play some of this. This guy's stepping away. And it's like this is fantastic. Okay. Because it's not just about response, it's about the motives that underpin that response. Do you understand? It's about relationship. How are they, what's under that? I talk about a picture, a response-based picture. Well, what's supporting those responses? It's just like a picture, what's framing it up? And I mentioned a story before. How do you can tell a fake from a counterfeit? Oftentimes it's the actual frame. I mentioned a story before. I bought a picture at Goodwill a few years back. This before Goodwill started really getting people on it. So it's like going to Goodwill now, you might as well go somewhere else and buy something new because it's like you may save $1 or $2, but that's it. But anyway, I remember going to Goodwill and a picture was there, and it looked like when you looked at it, it was like you know, it was something a defect in it or something because so many are like prints or whatever. Well, it was real paint. So when you flipped it over, what gave it away, or how it was, the frame itself came from Paris. Had a stamp in the back of it, inscribed in the back. So you looked at it and say, "Wow, this is crazy. This frame, you can tell it was this is like an original painting," and it was, and is, and I have it. And so but that's the thing. You gotta flip it over and study and look. You just don't take it for just from appearances, right? And here I'm talking about response. What's underpinning these responses? How are the perceptions aligned? The same thing when talk about the selfish child example. It's like a child going to the permissive parenting style, going to a parent because they get what they want. Okay, they're motivated to respond by way of getting something in return. And that can be problematic. Okay, once it gets to a level where it's like, just at a response level, the relationship is completely sideways. The child is selfish, has a bad attitude, and ask yourself the question, like your parenting style, is it just focused on at a response level that's your criteria to assess change? Shouldn't be. But the entire dog training world set up that way. Understand this is why you're seeing the most important piece of the puzzle here. Because my response to all this is like, show me the process. I want to see the training process. I want to see how these responses are being established. Well, you'll see here how they're being established in a second. Let's keep playing this.
Benny, come.
So here, creates the distance, right? And so Benny, comes. So it's right here. It's like, because he's saying, my great dog. Here comes Benny responding.
Yeah.
What's Benny want?
Let's go.
So a lot of times you can just tell from the body language of the dog, okay, the focus and anticipating something in return. That's the question here. Well, that gets answered in a second. Because a lot of times you can tell from just, even when you get a dog, this is why the whole Murdoch thing, when you talk about getting dogs to wait for, say, their food before they can eat. If you pay attention to these dogs, they look like a runner ready to launch out of the starting gate. Okay, their body language shows you their mind is jumping right over the dog owner. It's not coming in and through the relationship the right way at all. It's context. What is the context of that focus? Is it aligned? The perceptions aligned properly? In many cases, no, they're not. But these trainers are so superficial; they're not assessing that way. Understand? They're not looking at those indicators. They're not, because they don't care. This is what's going on here. It's just like, oh, look at Benny. He ran towards me.
All right, back to feeding time.
Feeding time.
Breakfast.
Start throwing out the treats. So here goes, just like tossing the treats out, right? The food out. And this is where I talk about, even using a motivator directly or indirectly, even through something the dog wants, anything the dog wants. It can be tying into their daily food supply or whatever. It'd still be a problem, especially if you're focused on this is your criteria in terms of superficial response. Assuming those responses can be trusted. But again, my challenge is based on what exactly? Like, how you establishing those responses through the relationship? See, it's like, let me just toss them. Treats in the air. This is as bad as Zach George. But when you go down here and this is the thing that's kind of funny, IQ dog training, who Ryan, again, I went through a whole bunch of his comments, not happy with the fact that, again, I responded to, again, more just foolishness. These trainers come onto my thing and start leaving comments. Thanks for sharing another video. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I may not even understand completely what you were doing. Well, I understand what he's doing. But for me, I keep meals separate from obedience or behavior modification. So it's pretty bad when even Ryan from IQ Dog Training is saying there's a problem here. If it is breakfast time or dinner time, the dog gets it regardless of good or bad behavior. It's possible for the dog to lose their meal or bad. See, I have no problem when it is separate from their designated meal time. See, he's even saying, well, but here's the thing. We'll switch this over. So, because this guy does it better in terms of at least the flash. And again, just kind of making light of all the foolishness here, but because we talk about response. Because here you had a trainer, Christophe Clugston. Okay, remember this guy. He's all over against social media again. He's one of the guys that, try to challenge, like putting out this challenge. Like here he says, he's the only canine dog trainer to do this on YouTube. This is what I call it's the quarter mile. I call it the quarter pounder with cheese, sit, stay, recall. Okay. Challenge he put up to say that but watch this. Okay. This is what So this is his big challenge here, but what do you think strapped right here? We'll talk about that a little more as he's going. So here you got, because very similar situation here. So he's saying, because he can do the quarter pounder with cheese, quarter distance recall challenge. He's the best trainer on the planet. Right here, he says he's trained dogs in the Arctic and in the jungles since 1974. Like, this is how crazy, like, since 1974. This guy has done the jungle training. So now he's setting this, showing you how. So this is further than Thank Me Later Sport Guide. This is further than this is quarter month. It works with Sethusia, the new Rin Tin Tin. Response, right? I'm going off like this is the criteria. Think what I said. I talk about a process, right? To reconcile, to align perception dogs, right? So same starting point, right? Where's the process? Well, I know because I've seen this process, so I know what it is already, but the same thing. It's just like, this is all just like trust response. Response is where it's at. And this is the criteria to establish that you're the king of the world. What's he reaching that bag? Oh, I know what's in that bag. Now he's going public with this. A truck is approaching. So he says, I've given him special signal. Wonder what that is. Via tech. Also a hand signal on which location I want. Okay, now watch this. Wonder what's going to happen here. Okay. Oh, what's that look like? Oops. Let's go back. Don't. Okay, had a little glitch there for a second with the video, but here we're back. So here's got his hand. Always watch too when you see these trainers, even when there's treats not present. Okay, always watch their hand motions. Okay, how they cup their hand, how they use their hand. That's an indicator of a process, of how they've set a picture of motion. Okay, how they're motivating. Okay, so if they're using that, treats and stuff, you'll see it right away. So here, Clugston got his hand going here to basically engage his dog. Again, I talk about the problems by way of using a motivating agent. Okay, versus a process that's going to be intentional when it comes to reconciling those core ingredients the right way to make sure, okay, that the perceptions of dogs, the focus of the dog is established the right way through the relationship. And then you work off of that. Okay, so understand that every time you see treats coming out, problem. Okay, now it's not to say that you can't have like through I talk about the totality of the relationship, talk about influence and control coming in, that you can't, some of these trainers could have a dog that's at a really high level. But again, I talk about the issues in terms of, certain dogs, based again on, say, call it 1 percentile dog, that's going to really cause them problems. Okay, they'll take a lot, or the people coming to them for training for help. You could have a 40% fail rate and you don't even know it. Okay, because you're looking at responses in a very superficial way. You're not able to properly engage the relationship, assess the relationship in terms of the current state of the relationship, and you're not going to engage in a way that's reconciles core ingredients so that can transfer over. So what needs to be generated with those people that it needs to happen with, it's not going to happen. The bottom out. So here again, he gets handcuffed here. Why do you say that bag was? Oh, treats. So here's dispensing the old treats. So again, when I talk about this whole thing about, these trainers are attempting to, establish, right, to say, hey, I'm king of the world here because, I got the quarter pounder, distance challenge. I say big deal. Okay. How do you know that that's represents what it represents? And besides, if you're engaging the right process, you're not going to be leaning on that way anyway as your be all and end all. Okay. I mean, you're not going to see, but these trainers are so superficially focused. They think response is where it's at without even understanding what's the criteria to even determine whether those responses are aligning properly. Like, see, I'm looking at something different here. I'm looking at in terms of perceptions changing the relationship, what underpins those responses, the motives that how those responses tie in that way through the perceptions of the dog. And no different. I talk about the parent example. You can get a selfish child to, you know, to be highly incentivized to do certain things by way of bribing them. All right, you start to engage, but it's about if that's your entry point into a relationship problem, and then you're superficially focused on response that way, then that's crazy. That's what these trainers are doing. So all to say that, you look at these trainers. This is Clugston, no different. He's putting it out there that this is where it's at. This proves that what I'm saying has merit. That I know what I'm talking about, and I'm saying no. It's about the starting point. Okay, it's about the process that aligns the perceptions of dogs the right way. Establishing that's the priority. That's the focus. Without that, this is meaningless. You can put this out here all you want, and this see 99% of trainers. That's what they're doing. They're saying the response is where it's at. Well, no, it's not. Okay, because if the dog's not perceiving the right way through that, that's why you see these trainers will be out in low distraction areas. You know, they because they got problems in the relationship with their dogs, but through this type of association through using treats this way, right? They're tying it in this way, but they're on shaky ground to begin with. I mean, this is why things fall apart so easily. Look at the service dog training industry, the train wreck. These dogs, so all the dogs out there are attached in a possessive way with their owners, and the focus it takes to actually perform a specific response isn't there, or it just um, fades out because that's what happens in the more distracting areas because the perceptions weren't aligned properly to begin with. The focus is not shifted onto the owner the right way. So something to think about. You see these individuals again. This guy, um, he's putting out his whole thing here with saying that his great dog and he's a balance trainer all over my videos. Well, no response this way. This is why you don't see the process. So because the same thing. I'd say to him, show me the process. But again, I talked through this. I talked about go into the thing about quadrants and all this stuff about certain concepts, even the context of agreeableness within certain concepts themselves, such as counter conditioning. Why that can be problematic. It's context, but there's no context for these trainers because they're not dialed in the right way to begin with. Thanks for watching.